Okay, we were just talking about how wonderful / intimidating it can be as we're getting further in this course, that even doing this for 8 years and reaching the ranks that I have reached, this seems super intense and intimidating to me because I have not reached this level of intentionality or like business ownership mindset. At the same time, I think it's really positive to have these kind of thought processes and like mental markers to say, like, this is how someone who is running their business like a business thinks, right? Like, these are things, and then they're giving us the tools. So right now, I'm going to turn it over to Kim in just a second to just get started, but I'm going to save some of the sequences that she gives for the email campaigns and marketing stuff. She gives all sorts of great verbiage. And like, if someone's interested in the opportunity and they fill out the form, that we're supposed to have created a link to a Google document form. If they're interested in your opportunity, then you drip them these 8 emails, right? And it's just an automatic thing that happens because you have Flowdesk or you have one of these things set up that I do not have set up or know how to use, right? So email campaigns, usually there are some, like MailChimp used to be free if you only had a certain amount of people that you were pushing campaigns out to. We used that when I lived in Africa for our newsletters and stuff. And I used that early on in my business for like, for like reminders or, sales or stuff like that. But for sure, in the last 6 years, have not used anything like that intentionally. But if you receive a lot of these types of things, probably from people that you have bought something from, or things that you have clicked that you were interested in the internet, and then all of a sudden you're getting these emails that come like every other day, every few days, or, right after you've attended something online, you're seeing these. So even with like her example, we signed up for her course. So we get drip campaigns before and after every Zoom, and that's happening, automatically because she's setting it up. So there are ways to do that. And she has given us like a full blueprint of, here's what you do before and after an event. These are the types of emails that you would set up and tweak each time you have an event, and here's when you would send them and what you would include in them. Here's the type of emails, like if you have your form, you just create over time. If you want to do it all in one day, you want to do it over a couple of weeks, create these emails and then set it and forget it. Because if someone clicks the link that they're interested in working with you, or they're interested in being mentored by you, whatever we end up calling it for how you're sharing, then that full campaign drips to them over the course of 2 weeks or whatever. It's like 8 emails, blah, blah, blah. But you get to create that, but she gives all the templates. So I'm going to hop off and not hop off, but I'm going to mute myself and download those things into our drive.
Yeah. So this lesson, I feel like, was a challenge for me, like in a good way, but to really try and level up. If I want to recruit people that are driven and want a successful business, this is a great way to show them just your professionalism and that you're going to really take care of them. I think we can do that without an email campaign. Like, I'll say that, but this is just another touch point, and it can be really great for, I think, just if people aren't on social media a lot, this is another way to still be in front of them. And often if people are taking a break from social media for whatever reason, like, they're still checking their email. And so it is a way for you to continue to communicate with people. And you can do that, set these, Flowdesk or whatever up in a way where it's really easy for you to manage and maintain too. So it's some work on the front end of setting it up, and you go in every month or two and just kind of tweak it to whatever your theme might be or whatever your event is about. If it's a little bit different than what you had been doing, you can tweak your emails, all of that, but really the meat of the content stays the same. And so This is just really another tool for you to put in your back pocket when you get there. I think it is something, if you want to recruit business builders, you can start doing this right away. Like, this is a way you can accelerate probably getting in front of people more. People need so many touches before they're ready to say yes to something. And this is just another way to get more touches in and a way to address concerns at the same time. It's not just, you want to come to this event? Oh, you see my post about this. This is another way for you to learn more. And so this is a way to get in front of them and share more with them, um, just on another platform. So we're really talking about, this is the back end marketing. So they call it back end because really it's behind the scenes, right? The front stuff is like posting on social media or being at an in-person event. Those are things where you are physically in front of them. So this is where you're kind of behind the scenes and it's considered back end marketing, these email type campaigns. So we're going to just talk a little bit about how to use them. I probably I'm not going to go step by step. She shares like step by step what to do or what to say in each email or what the content should be about. And I'm probably not going to do that because we are going to share some of the email sequences that Melanie gave us with you guys so you can see it. And I just feel like it's easier when you see it. So I won't go into a ton of detail on that stuff today. But I do love this for it just being a touch point off social media. Um, Let me see. Another back end marketing tool is just like private messages. Any direct messages in Messenger, that would be considered back end as well, because that's not something that's out in front of everybody. That is a private touch point. That's more behind the scenes. But she would argue that both the public social media content and then this back end email campaign is just a great way to have a well-rounded marketing strategy for recruiting business builders. You can use this for recruiting product takers too, if you wanted to set up emails that are for events that we have for product takers as well. Or you could set something up for just post event if you have people that are part of a wellness event and you wanted to set up emails to follow up with them after that. I guess you could do it that way, but I don't know if I would encourage that. I just think those personal touch points are important at that point. But really it's a way to just nurture your leads. So whether people from a business standpoint, like if people express interest in your opportunity and they fill out your form, they're going to go to this email marketing system that Sally just touched on when she was introducing things. And really what this lesson walked through was like setting up that system. She didn't go through like, here's how to do flow desk or here's how to do, that's the only one that comes to mind when I'm thinking of right now, but there are a lot of options for that. I think you could do it in a variety of options. I think she lists a few out. But anyway, these emails, they go to start dripping to people after they express interest in the business opportunity. And so it'll be things like, thanks for filling out this form. And then you tell a little bit about who you are, so they get to know you a little bit. And at the end of each email, you have like a call to action. So if you are ready to get started, hit reply and blah, blah, blah. Or if they have questions, they can respond with whatever their questions are. So they always end with a call to action. I think that's an important point to make. But they just kind of continue to drip a little get to know you and get to know the business. So like an example of the next email you would send would be about just more of your story and how you got started in the business, why, if they join you, like kind of what you stand for and that kind of thing. So they kind of drip these throughout this email sequence. I think she had 5 or 6 emails that just cover different points like this, like how to earn money as a distributor, how to use social media for your business. Sometimes she'll touch on objections people have and make that one of her emails. So it's just using this email campaign and what kind of content is going to help you get to a point where they are ready to say yes. One of the emails she talks about too is like, um, a common objection, of course, is like fears about starting a business with your company. So maybe it's because it's an MLM and they think MLMs are pyramid schemes. So you would just touch on that in your email. Like, so those are just some examples that she gave in these different emails, but you would drip these out probably over a couple of weeks. It'd be every day or every other day you would be sending them out. Um, let's see. Yeah, she had 8 for her expressing interest business sequence. One of them would be details of like how to sign up. This is like one of the last emails. Details of how to sign up. You could potentially put a share a cart in there if you wanted with like the cost, but also then what products you would encourage someone to get started if they are interested in sharing about the biz. Like, so you'd probably start them on just a wellness foundational gut health regimen or something like that. But anyway, they just walk through like essentially what you would share if you were having a conversation with someone, um, and addressing those potential objections that come up as well. So that's kind of what they do in that business opportunity sequence. It honestly, if your brain thinks this way, you could probably whip these out in like a week. Like if you just kind of were intentional and set a goal to just write one of those emails a day, um, you could do that. But what I'd encourage you to do first is kind of create a plan. So you would have a title for each email you were going to send, and then create the content for those. But it's going to help you just kind of map things out and make sure you're touching on all the things you want to touch on. And you can kind of think through your order of how you want the flow to go in your conversation with them through email. So anyway, I thought that was helpful to like think through, okay, what do you do to start? Start with the titles and then write the emails after you have all the titles so that you make sure you have a systematic order, it flows well, and you can make it feel kind of like there was a conversation, even though they may or may not be really responding to those emails. Let's see. One thing she did say is important to do with these is just make sure at some point, if you're connected through Messenger initially or something like that, was just to make sure they know, hey, I sent you an email. Just make sure, you have my email listed in your safe emails. Like just check and make sure it doesn't go to spam. She also said this was kind of related to that too, as far as emails not going to spam and that kind of thing. Oh, I lost my thought. Anyway, I won't keep going on that. I'll let you know if I think of it again. That was really the main point, was make sure they don't go to spam, and make sure like you have that connection so they know to watch for them. Oh, this is what I was going to say. It was about spam. I had to rethink through that. There is actually like a website, or you can Google like those flag words where emails get sent to spam. And so you can just make sure in your titles you're not using those particular words or phrases, and that will also help make sure emails don't get lost. So that was the other thing she said, and I wanted to make sure to pass along.
I do think
So,
that this is
yeah.
also like a really neat thought process to think like when I think about people that I receive emails from, I definitely like let's say I have clicked on something from Brooke Hemingway apparently and Emily Gibson before for some of their training. So like I'm getting their emails like every day, every other day, right? Now it's pretty far after the time that I clicked on whatever I clicked on for them or a training that I attended from them. And so like some of that stuff, I'm like, I'm kind of done seeing that as often as I see it in my inbox, right? Like I don't want it all the time, but I do like, I'm not bothered by that if it's like, I know that they're coming up on one of their webinars. And so I'm getting a few email like invites of that. Do you know what I mean? But she did say like once, like, let's say someone fills out here, I'm interested in working with you, or I'm interested in the opportunity, or I want to make money from home. Like for sure, like someone wants to work with you. She's like, you need to send an email every day, because they've just said they wanted to do this. So you send an email every day, you drip that campaign, those 8 campaigns like daily, because they've just decided that that's something they want to do, and you don't want to let that pass. Now, potentially after those 8 days that they still haven't responded, there may be another email campaign that you set up that's just your value adding one. And she didn't really talk about this, but this is kind of what I see,
Yeah.
like ones that I continue to get and I don't mind. I'm getting like once or twice a week from like Dr. Mercola, who maybe I clicked on something of his Instagram, but he sends just like tidbits about health stuff. I'm interested in that. And so I don't mind that coming to my inbox, or like Jessica's podcast stuff. Like she'll send when there's a podcast episode that comes out. And so I do think, yes, we have the recruitment flow one. Someone filled out my form. I'm interested in working with you, or potentially like a health form, right? Like I'm interested in, a free health consultation or whatever. We're getting customers and ambassadors in that same kind of vein. Or obviously, like if we're doing a cyclical event thing or webinars, like that makes sense. But also, in what way that maybe you haven't even tapped into on social, are you able to like speak into a group of people that you're trying to build a community of? Right. So if you're like thinking like, Amy, you've helped write a book, like you have all of this encouragement and knowledge and all of this stuff inside of you for a specific set of people, right? Who is like, what is this email list that you're building? And that's going to be your value adding one, right? So you're able to, maybe even if it's once a week, send out a little weekly encouragement or something that's giving life to the people who are following along and wanting to be, because they're in a similar position or needing that same kind of encouragement that you are. So like Christina, I see you doing this with your West Michigan moms and your meetups and like that kind of stuff. Like you're doing that on social. So I'm sure like you can translate that to, this is the value adding stuff, not just we have a Plexus event that I'm trying to sell to you at this event, but hey mamas, this Monday, one Monday of every month, I'm, getting on a Zoom and we're going to talk through the stages of grief, and we're going to talk through some helpful things that, we're able to do with our kids. And I'm going to have this mama come on and visit. Like there are events that you can use to build a community that are outside of sales for Plexus. But at the same time, we always have that available, and we're sharing on social about who also, because a need of those same people you're building community with is to feel better and to have energy. And a need of those same people is, I got to figure out how to make more money from home because I'm doing it all. Right. So it's like, there's a value adding and a community building aspect that you can do through that. That seems a little bit more, if I'm honest, a little bit more hands off, which kind of is nice, because it's not a constant, I'm supposed to be on social media all the time and I can't be. You know what I mean? But like after kids go to bed, I have all these thoughts and feelings. I can write this down and have and have a short, succinct email encouragement that goes out once a week, or I can get together and plan a Zoom. That is something that's near and dear to my heart once a month. That's value adding that pulls people into this kind of community that I'm trying to build, versus it just being like everything all the time. I need whoever's going to listen. I need whoever's going to buy. And so I love the methodical process of that, because we each do have things that we're passionate about. But sometimes I even feel overwhelmed with like, how do I think of things to share every single day on social media? You know what I mean? Like there are things that I think are interesting or that I could, write about or share about, but it's not like I could talk about it all day, every day, because me and like Kim and I were talking before the call, we wear all these different hats. And at any given point in time, I'm not in that mind frame or that thought process. I'm like, crap, I got to go make stories. Or, I didn't post about that today. But in this more intentional, methodical way, you're able to kind of funnel what you know and keep it going, and then have that systematic approach to when someone wants information about the business. Here's the strip. They sign up. What if you have a drip of Silver and Six that happens right after that, and they get emails of Silver and Six? So there's text campaigns, there's email campaigns, but whatever it is, like the automated aspect of that potentially is phenomenal, for all of us. But it is just that up leveling of, I got to think through this. I got to be intentional with what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to build, and how I can best work that out without constantly just feeling like I'm all over the place. But I love that, like, just even thinking through that of like, I always hear people, and we've heard people for years say like, build an email list, build an email list. And I'm just like, I don't understand. What do you mean? And like, what am I going to send? But it's like, if this is a cyclical thing where you have an offer and you have things to, add value, then that does make sense. And we do have things like, even for our Plexus team, we can do a monthly newsletter. We can literally copy and paste stuff that we've posted on the team pages and stick it into an email and send it out. Like, it's not hard, but it's intentional and it's thought through, and it can't happen the day it's supposed to go out or it defeats the purpose, right? Then it's like, where's all my emails? Copy and paste it into Gmail and shoot it out.
Yes, that's so good. I think it's also just really strategic if you want your business to have more longevity, or in the weird situation, something happens with social media. Like we had that a couple of years ago where for whatever reason, like nobody could post anything on, I think it was Instagram and Facebook, like the whole day. And I think it was kind of a good little wake up call, like, oh, hey, I am really dependent on this for my livelihood and my income. How would I continue to connect with those people? Like, what are other ways that I can connect and add value to people aside from social media? And, if you are engaged with those same people um, via email in some way, that is just a great little backup to have in the event that somehow all of that gets away. Um, Good point, Christina. She was just saying how, like you get blocked out of messages or something like that, you go to Facebook jail. Like you still have a way to connect with people and you're not just like stuck. So this is a kind of a forward thinking strategy as well. In just, you have people you're connecting with, you are adding value in a different way. And if something happens to social media world, like you are still able to connect with those people. And of course, we have our whole team's emails in our back office. So we do have emails, but as far as those prospects and those more distant connections that you're trying to build from cold market into warm market, this is just another, and then into customership, like this is a way to do that more. So anyway, she did give an example as well of like, if you're doing a webinar potentially for like a business event, you could have like 7 or so emails leading up to the event. You send one immediately after the event, same day, same night, and then you also have some that continue afterwards. So I think those sequences are all in some of the resources we're going to share with you, but that is there's going to be like an email guide, and it does talk about like different potential. Sally already has it uploaded to our Google Drive. There's like an email guide where it talks about different potential platforms to create a campaign. There's the pre and post event kind of checklist of things to include in those. And then I would also just say, like, these email campaigns aren't necessarily in place of direct messages. Like, you still are going to be connecting with people on social media. This is just another touch point. And if you think about it, it kind of accelerates the process a little bit. If you think about it, because if people need kind of what we said, 8 to 12, maybe even 14 touch points, if you're talking to them in your private messages and they're getting 8 emails from you over the course of a week, or if they're getting the pre-emails and the post emails, that's like 2 weeks of daily communication of at least once. That's 14 touch points. Like, you are talking them through the whole process in these campaigns, and by continuing to connect with them on social media, they are going to just be that much more well informed to be able to decide if this is something they want to do. So I think we kind of talked about this a little bit. Like, after the campaign, you can have them go into a different email sequence where you're just adding value. You can also do one where you reconnect them to your events when they start happening the following month. Since we're doing this more systematic approach of like, this is when we're talking about business stuff, this is when we're talking about product stuff, we have those chunks in our month to be strategic in what we're talking about on social media. We can also be strategic and plug these people in to follow up with them the next month when there's another opportunity for them to learn more. So that is really the main meat, I feel like, of this content for the week. I know I feel like it was not as specific as some of the other weeks as far as going step by step through those emails, but I feel like honestly it's going to be easier for you if you go in and check out those resources, because it does spell out each one of those sequences and how to think through them and how to do it. In the workbook for this week, it kind of helps you brainstorm this stuff too. So I think, and it helps you kind of work through the process of setting it up, but making sure you're ready to set it up. So like having your form ready to go. What types of email sequences do you want to have? And then also kind of starting to work through some of that wording. She kind of gives just little open chunks for you to start brainstorming what you want in each of those sections. So I think then referring to those different resources we shared in the Google Drive, that's going to just help you as you're working through your homework.
And I think it's neat too to think, like she said, like at the end of this course, everything that we've talked about so far, the entire workbook is basically your blueprint. So let's say you're working kind of like, Kim and I were even talking, it's like, I'm not being as intentional as I want to with this information and implementing it, but from start to finish in this workbook, is the plan of implementation also. So maybe you haven't done your stories yet of, you know, the business ask and like your staple story of why you're doing this business and who you're looking for. Well, that is helpful because that's your funnel into the form, you know, that is saying, I want to do that too, because that's the link that's going to be on the last one of those stories in your highlights or whatever. And then that form is then connected to this email. So this is almost like a step-by-step. And so for me, for sure, I also need to go backwards and work backwards and say, okay, what steps have I missed that this is feeling a little out of left field? And I need to go back and fill in the gaps and remember who's my ideal client. What am I trying to get out of this? What kind of community am I trying to build? Get those things back in place in my brain and say, okay, well, then this makes sense. Then if I have these things and I'm funneling for this type of, you know, community, or if this is my ask, then this makes sense then to have this. And she did exactly like Kim said. She was like, this is like the automated cyclical system that's happening in addition to if people are online on her events, or if people are responding to her or messaging her in stories, she's having conversations in real time, just like we do with our normal IPA. So this is not instead of IPA, but this is a support system to keep the flow moving and to have a systematic approach to information and how to plug people in. That for sure I have never tapped into really. And I think too is like, how do
It really beefs it up.
it's that like literal, like a gird of support versus saying like, I don't know how to help someone get started. Oh, you're interested? Here's 8 emails that are going to tell you exactly why you should do this. And when you sign up, I have 6 days worth of content that are going to help you earn $300 in 30 days. Like, wouldn't that be great? Yes. Okay. Awesome. All you got to do is check your email and here it comes. Or, you know, if you're doing project broadcast, all you got to do is check your text and make sure that, you know, you're responding. So I know how to help and follow up with you or whatever. Like that also in my mind, it makes me take people more seriously also that work like that. Like in my brain for myself, I'm thankful that I don't have to be this like major crazy CEO person because like, honestly, I'm not, you know, but having a systematic approach, like that's why people up level their income without total burnout is because they're creating systems that work when they're not working, right? Like that email drip's happening while she's at the baseball field, you know? And so I'm not that person maybe, but it's like, that is kind of a goal to like think of myself and my business in high regard enough to set these things into motion so that growth can happen and all of that can happen without me feeling like, oh, I have to recreate the wheel every month, or I don't know what to do, or how do I build this on Facebook when half of the people are on Instagram now? You know, like this is a great scenario for that because everyone has an email address. So that's kind of awesome. Even if they never check their email like me, if they want something and they know it's coming, then they're going to look at it.
You scan for it at least. That's what I do. I am an email scanner. I'm like, oh, this looks important. Okay, you
Right.
know,
Or
and if
it's
you know
something
it's
to
coming,
refer
they've
them back
told
to.
you you're looking for something, then of course you're gonna, as you're scanning, you're gonna, oh, there's that email from Kim. I'm gonna,
Mm-hmm. And just something to fall back on too. If they're like message you and you're like, hey, I do want to do this. Oh, great. Did you get those emails I sent you last month? You said you wanted to do it last month. I sent you 8 emails. You know, did you get to work through those or should I send them again? Like, it's like you get to fit people around your schedule. So I'm gonna make this kind of like analogy between my cookie business. So when I used to make cookies from home and decorate them and all of that, I was only making custom orders and it was incredibly stressful. I never knew what colors to make for icing. I never knew, like, everything was new. I was trying to like be creative on the spot and like make these things for people. Do you know what I mean? And then it was very sporadic also because it just, as people asked me, I would have work. It was right after I started doing Plexus, though, that I started to get into this cookie group on Facebook. And I saw people working in an intentional and methodic way where they just made a bunch of stuff and offered it for sale. And it put the ball in their court on what things they baked, when they baked, the colors that they make. And it decreased a lot of waste because they weren't just making random stuff all of the time. It was like, no, I'm offering Santas and Christmas trees and this and a box of 3. You can pick it up on these days. And it's like, they took the power back, and they actually were making a lot more money in their cookie business than I was, because I was waiting for people to come to me, and then I was struggling to do whatever they wanted me to do. And then they were like, I don't want to pay $4 a cookie for that. And I would be like, but I didn't have the power then, they did. And so in the same way, if we're just like, ooh, let me share this post and hope someone signs up off of this, and like, ooh, what do you need? Let me try and meet you here where you need. There's no underlying source of stability, and it just feels like we're going haywire all the time, versus this systematic thing that's like under here saying, I know who I am, I know what I have to offer, I know who I'm looking for, how can you fit into what I have to offer, and let me show you why what I'm doing is going to be great for you, versus the other way around, where it's like, well, tell me what you can do for me. And to me, that, like, it does provide a lot of mental space and stability to have that. And if you think, if I was going to go sit down at the coffee shop for 2 hours, what would I do? Well, yes, IPA. And yes, we're having our daily, I'm sharing about stuff on Facebook, and I'm sharing about my stuff on Instagram. Like, none of that goes away, like Kim said. But as a business owner, then I'm actually in my inbox, I'm checking emails and responses. Like, that feels like a job, right? Like, it does feel different. It's a different level of seriousness, intentionality, and all of that, which sometimes can help us take ourselves and what we're doing a little bit more seriously when we've set stuff like that up. When we set stuff like that up. And this is where group accountability happens, right? This is where, yeah. And everyone's like, okay, so what email platforms have you looked at? And how hard is this one? Has anyone used Flowdesk before? I know that, like, Jessica used to use Flowdesk. Now she uses Kajabi. Kajabi is the form that all of these, like, courses are on. And I think they have, like, a system that also sends out emails and stuff if they have their courses on there. But MailChimp was an old school one. I don't even know, if they still are around. I'm sure that they are. Flowdesk is one that I know people have used. And a lot of these are template oriented. So it makes it cute for you. You plug in the text and you plug in the pictures, and then you set the schedule. And a lot of times they have, like, lists of people. So I want to send out this email campaign of 8 emails to this list at this time or whatever. So it helps you schedule it out and know who you're sending stuff to. So you could have an email list of all your current VIPs, an email list of your current business builders, and then you're growing, like, value-based adding thing. And then you've got a list that triggers your opportunity emails when someone clicks that link and says, I want to join your business, I want to work with you. So, like, those platforms are set up in a way that it should be kind of plug and play. I haven't done one recently enough to know, but if they did that 10 years ago, then I'm sure a lot of them are pretty awesome these days. So I think that's a good thing for us just to like look into. And again, think about, what would that mean for you? How much more freedom and stability would that provide in your mind of, this is who I am and this is what I'm offering. And so then this is what I share about. Like, then I'm sharing to try and get people on my email, my email list, or I'm sharing because I have a link to how to join me, how to get started in this business that's going to give them the information that I want them to have immediately, versus me having to, get them on a Facebook group or whatever it is that puts a little bit more work on us. Christina says she needs to sign up for the pay plan to get things automated, which would be really helpful and way more organized for various groups. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, I remember, like, MailChimp, I didn't pay for it. And so I would create something and then, like, schedule the one thing to be sent out, versus, like, I do think the heavier you get with, like, automated lists and systems and things like that, I'm sure that paid for. But it'd be interesting to see too, like, even if you're giving yourself, like, I'm going to create this stuff and I'm going to give it like 90 days and I'm going to, pay for the automation of this, and see, like, what it changes for me and my business, or how it changes the way that I'm working, or even bringing back joy into it. Like if you're someone who likes to write, or you're someone who is like, I don't know how to put these types of feelings and these types of thoughts on a 30-second clip on social media, but I could record a video once a week or once a month that's going to go out to people that I know need to hear what's on my heart. Like that could feel different in a ministry sense too, because sometimes it's hard to be really succinct in a social media world where it's like 15 seconds, 15 seconds, 15 seconds, and you're talking about heavy stuff. So anyway, good thoughts. Remember what we talked about in the beginning though, like these don't bog us down. We have our weekly IPA sheets that I think everyone on this call is implementing, because we are now implementing the same one that Team Iron already implements, and that's the black and white weekly IPA sheet that you're turning in before your Monday night calls. We're doing that too. That still happens. Like there are already systems and cycles in our business that we can tap into with intentionality to make sure, like right now, we're doing what it takes to help your paycheck grow, right? We're doing what it takes to help pull people in as customers and as ambassadors. But these, again, are ideas and thoughts to start thinking through if you're wanting to up level that. And sometimes some of these things might make more sense to you than what you feel like you've been trying to do on social media. And that might help you connect, oh, if I have this is what I should be sharing about on social media, because you're funneling to that information. You're able to give a lot more information and direction in something like this email campaign and email platforms than you are just in a reel or in a Facebook post or in conversation, honestly, where you feel like you're not just like drowning people with information. So, all right, guys. That's all I got. You got anything else, Kim?
I don't think so. Well, I take that back. One thing, this is something that Melanie said too, that can snowball. So like with doing opportunity events or anything like, yeah, really opportunity events is a great example. Like it's something that as you start talking about the business more and providing and presenting these things more, the interest is going to grow. So you do a business opportunity webinar and nobody shows up, you still do it, you still record it, you send it out to the people that said they were interested, and you use that information to help you grow and do better the next time. And then the next time you have a couple of people show up and you do the same thing. And the next time you have more. And so I think you'll see that same growth pattern and cycle with implementing any of these things. Like the first month, it may not produce anything, but hopefully by the third month of consistently doing this, you're starting to see signs of life and fruit, So I think that's just an important mindset thing to remember too, is just like, this is implementing something new and it's going to take time for it to really produce fruit, because you're offering something in a new and different way and people are going to be watching first before they jump in.
And she talked about too, like the confidence that consistency brings, like, yes, you're making tweaks, but to like do the same thing. And then like, even if no one showed up, like, man, every time I do this, train on this information or talk about this, it just lights me on fire. And I'm so excited. If you didn't get to jump on, you can grab the recording. I didn't lie and say that a bunch of people were on and enjoyed it, and it was such a fun event. I said, man, every time I talk about this, it just like lights me up, like, so you can still use an event or a webinar or a live that nobody showed up to, or a recording, to make you more confident, because each time you do it, it's just like anything we do with our IPA or training or leading a Zoom or something. Every time you do something, you get more confident with it, right? And if you're using the same information to train and do a webinar about our opportunity, or a webinar about how this opportunity specifically, you're building a community with this type of people, it's going to become like second nature. And then your confidence is going to attract more people, because you're going to be more excited to offer the second time, because you're less scared, even if you're like, well, maybe hopefully someone comes this time. But it is that age old thing that it's most people would be more successful if they didn't just stop doing the activity too soon before the fruit happens, right? It's that 10x curve of consistency, 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 growth. And this is where we chop our feet off and keep starting over because we don't see the fruit. And we've been talking a lot about this, but it's like we are to live by faith, not by feedback. And so if we know that we're doing the right things and being good stewards of our business and the information is solid and we're tweaking and we're just presenting our opportunity, yes, we're using that as feedback to grow and do better, but we don't quit off of feedback, right? We don't start something off of feedback. We're saying, this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to keep doing it, and the Lord brings the fruit if I'm faithful and I'm consistent. And so that's a pattern that I see in my life in general of just like wanting to give up because I don't see good feedback, or like, well, I'll only do this if people want me to do it, or if people are going to show up, I want to do this. And it's like, that's not integrity. Like, that's not good stewardship or good business ownership. Like, you show up when nobody shows up because it's your business and because it's your growth, right? So we're all learning through that together. We're all working through those things, no matter what level we're at. That stuff doesn't go away. Those things, like, sometimes I have 2 people on my Zoom and I'm a diamond. You know what I mean? Like, that still happens. It doesn't matter. But you keep showing up, you keep doing the things, and there's different times in your business. Sometimes I've been talking to 200 people. Sometimes I've been talking to 2. Sometimes I show up and nobody shows up, and that's okay. I have to work through what that means mentally for me, just like you'll have to be mentally for you. Yes, just like this. It was just me and Kim for a little while in the beginning, and we were just having a good old time, and we showed up and we were here, so it's fine. But anyway, all right. I love you guys. I hope that these are always, as always, an encouragement and just good information to think through. Don't let it slow you down, but let it encourage you to say, this is what's possible when I begin to think higher of myself and my business and put my goals as priority for what God's put in front of you. So, Kim, you want to just close us in prayer and then we can pop off?
Sure, I can do that. Lord God, we come before you and we thank you for just the opportunity you've given us through Plexus. God, how you have used this in each of our lives to provide for us in different ways, both for our health and also for our families' provision and finances. And God, I know personally you have used Plexus just to meet needs that we've had whenever they have come up. Like, you've always provided just what we needed, even as my business has been growing. And I recognize, Lord, that that's from you. And so, God, as we look to just really faithfully steward what you've given us, God, I pray you would help us to just see clearly the vision you have for us, and in our Plexus businesses. And God, that we would be faithful in working towards that. And Lord, that we wouldn't necessarily try to strive, but that we would trust you also for the fruit, that we would be faithful and then look to you for the rest. And so we just thank you for this community and this time we get to connect and share together. And I just pray for each of the women that are here, as we're sharing now, but also those that are going to be listening to this recording later. God, that you would just meet them where they are right now, that you would help them know the next right step, and that you would go before us. And as we start to plan and prepare for our business is this next week with a big Black Friday sale, but also so much great time with family and friends. I just pray, Lord, you would help us to enjoy each thing and each gift in their time. And we just thank you for all the good gifts you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, we love you.
Well, see you later.